Hello, and welcome to the first episode of Conservation for All. In this series, I'll be taking scientific studies on conservation and breaking them down for the everyday audience. I'll try to translate that technical jargon so it doesn't get in the way. Today, we'll be looking at how maintaining natural conditions for captive raised wildlife affects their population numbers after being released into the wild. Population decline is one of the many threats to species and biodiversity across the globe. There are ways that conservationists are seeking to combat these threats, from habitat preservation to managed care. One of these ways sees scientists raising animals in captivity to be released into the wild to supplement population numbers. Today we'll examine how captive breeding techniques can be an effective tool to this end. Before we move on, let's go over some common terms we're going to be using, and we'll explain them to make sure we're all on the same page. Captive breeding is when living collection institutions breed and raise individuals in facilities for managed care under human supervision. This is usually done starting maybe from an egg all the way to a juvenile or adult stage. Furthermore, living collection institutions are generally organizations such as zoos, aquariums, which have living beings as their main exhibits. And the main variable that we are looking at today is the environmental conditions in which these individuals are raised before they're released into the wild. One of my favorite types of animals are snakes. They're pretty elusive where I come from, so seeing one is always a treat. As you might know, when winter comes around, snakes transition into a state of low activity. I was always taught that this was hibernation. However, the technical term is brumation, as it is specific to cold-blooded animals. Obviously, when an animal doesn't eat for weeks or months, they will lose some of their body mass, which could make them vulnerable when they reemerge in the spring. Therefore, some scientists have thought that when raising snakes, if they can keep them active throughout the cold months, their body mass could increase or at least stay the same. This would mean that they are more likely to survive when they are released into the wild. However, a paper by Sacerdote Velat and colleagues challenges this idea. In this study, the researchers performed an experiment on smooth-green snakes, where some snakes underwent brumation and the rest were kept active year-round. Some snakes from each group were released into the wild and monitored. The results were initially as suspected. The brumated snakes lost about 8.3% of their body mass while inactive, while the other group gained approximately 47.2% in the same time span. However, in the 2 months following the brumation period, the inactive snakes experienced about twice as much body mass increase as the active snakes. This can be compared to compensatory growth seen in other species. This means that by the time the individuals were ready to be released, the body masses between the two groups were roughly the same. Another interesting finding was that the snakes that underwent brumation appeared to have a higher reproductive potential than the active group. For example, even though reproduction does not usually occur until the age of 3 in this species, at around 1.5 years, the brumated group were producing unfertilized eggs and sperm, while the active group was not. This is important because even though humans can add individuals to populations, the overall goal is a self-sustaining population that does not require human intervention. Therefore, with no advantage to body mass on keeping individuals active year-round, it may be better to try and replicate the natural life histories. Thanks for watching. I hope this breakdown was educational. I know I learned a lot about snake life histories. I'll have all my sources listed in the description, so if you want, you can read any of these papers for yourself. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave them in the comment section, and I'll try to answer them as best as I can, or at least point you in the right direction. Have a good day.